Yeah, what's good? And welcome to the 5th episode called
Eating Disorders.
With our special guest, Sophie Grimmer.
Hi, Sophie.
How you doing today?
Yeah, not too bad. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Not too bad.
So eating disorders, there's a few different types. You've got anorexia, bulimia, BED, and OSFED, which is like where your disorder doesn't fit into the other three specifically. And we're going to be talking to Sophie about the disorders she suffered from and how they've affected her life and so on, basically.
So if you just want to tell us a little bit, sort of to start off, when you first started to feel it coming on, if that's the way to say it.
Yeah. So I can't pinpoint exactly like when I got the eating disorder, but it was around my GCSEs. I think one of the reasons probably I got it is because, as you both know, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist and I have a slightly controlling nature. I like to control every aspect of my life. And I think doing exams and just the pressure.
Teenage pressure.
Yeah, pretty much. It kind of got to me. I think to start with, I used food as a little bit of a punishment.
Yeah.
So like if I'd done badly in an exam or like, I don't know, I just not had a good day, I'd be like, right, I'm not having chocolate or I'm not having crisps. And then I think it just kind of led on from there. And then, you know, I'd then be like, it kind of went from a punishment to like an achievement. So if I hadn't eaten breakfast, let's say, it was like, oh, okay, well, you might have a good day now.
Yeah.
Or if I'd had a really bad day and then like I'd had a really bad day, but I hadn't eaten lunch or breakfast, then it'd be like, okay, well, I've had a really bad day. My exam didn't go very well, but I haven't eaten.
You haven't eaten said meals.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of where it started. So I think I must have been about 14, 15 when it first started.
Because as we sort of spoken about my past a little bit, and obviously, as I didn't say before, if you haven't noticed, obviously me and Sophie are siblings, but obviously because there was no control, sort of what was going on with me, and because you had no control over that, to start off with the bullying and then obviously the drug addiction. Like we've spoken about this like in the past about it, but you always said because you had no control over me, you had to have control over something.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I think in some ways as well, with everything that was going on with I was like the good child. Like I was the one that was doing her exams and I was getting on with things and like they didn't have to worry about me.
Perfect little princess.
Yeah, well, you know me. But I think that's probably why the eating disorder went under the radar quite a lot, because nobody really, I don't mean they weren't checking up on me or anything, because, you know, mum and dad were great as we were growing up. But yeah, it was just like, oh, well, Sophie's just, you know.
Maybe you didn't see it as a bad thing.
Yeah.
So therefore,
Yeah. And it just wasn't, I don't know. And I think it got to a point, I guess maybe when you were starting to get better, that people did start to notice. I remember we went to a family party and one of our aunts was like, said to mum, she was like, do you think Sophie looks quite thin? And then I think mum was like, oh, actually, yeah, she does. And I think then when people started to notice was then when I would start to eat, but I'd make myself sick because it was easier. Because then, you know, I could say to everyone, oh, you know, look, I am eating, it's fine, it's not a problem. But then I would go off and I'd make myself sick.
Is that a switch from anorexia to bulimia then?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was still, if I wasn't around, I guess around that time, I had friends like Vicky and Laura who were amazing and who at the time I probably hated quite a lot because they were the ones that were going, you know, you need to eat something, you need to look after yourself, that sort of thing. But I had other friends who were like, oh, you look amazing, like you're fine, like let's go for a run, let's do this, let's do that. And so with those friends, I didn't need to pretend. So I just wouldn't eat with them because they didn't see a problem with it. But with my real friends and family, I would eat so that they thought I was eating, and then I would make myself sick.
Because there was quite a clever thing that you used to do with food, where Sophie would start off a meal and she'd sort of be chatting away and throwing her food about, right? So, but never actually putting anything in her mouth, but cutting it up and then hiding it under a bigger part of the food.
Right, okay.
And then so you never really noticed that she wasn't actually eating anything. So the techniques she was using, which sort of is a little bit amazing to think that you have to.
She went through so much effort.
Yeah. To just not eat at all.
It was a lot of thought, and it was exhausting, like having to keep that. Yeah, and I think the thing is, at the time, I was like, everyone would be like, oh, you've got a problem, like you need to be eating. But I thought I was completely in control. I thought that was the one part of my life that I was actually controlling, and if I wanted to eat, I could eat at any time. That was genuinely what was good. And even I think, even when I was making myself sick, I was like, oh well, I'm just doing this because I'm not hungry, or
self-validation.
Yeah. Rather than being like, I actually can't stop this on my own. But I think it was a lot of lying and a lot of like, I'd say to my mum, oh, I'm eating out with my friends, and then I'd go out with my friends and I'd be like, oh, I've eaten at home, and it was a lot of lying to a lot of people. Yeah.
But sort of lies to cover your tracks.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But also as we've spoken before, you had a partner who I think influenced you a little bit more to be skinnier, because he was quite manipulative, and he used to say that he preferred his girls skinnier.
Yeah, so I think I was about 18, 19 when we got together, so I was already kind of making myself sick and stuff by that point.
So about 4 years into the illness then.
Yeah, and I think, he kind of... he used to say he liked the drug addict look, so very, very thin, very gaunt.
He loved me.
Yeah,
I was going to say, hold on.
But and so anytime, I would kind of, even if I was like getting to a point where I was like, oh, I'm so, because I would get to points where you'd literally it was disgusting. Like you were sweating, I was, my hair was falling out. It was absolutely disgusting. And so I'd be like, right, I really, really need something. I need a burger. I need anything. And then I might go to have like a bit of food, and then he'd kind of look at me like, are you going to eat that? Because you might put weight on. And so, I think being with someone like that as well, we were together for like 2 years. And so that I was never going to get better in that environment either, because I just couldn't. And I think it probably was around the time when I started to get better that actually we split up, because I think I realised I just deserved better.
Yeah, 100%.
And with it sort of now, obviously you don't have do you still have a control on food now?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely isn't as bad as it was. I don't think that an eating disorder ever leaves you. I definitely like to keep to a certain weight. Yeah. And I know that if I eat certain foods, I won't necessarily stay at that weight.
I think that's quite normal in a general sense. So we all want to be a weight. You know what I mean?
I guess for me, if I never let myself like go past a certain weight, because I'm worried that if I go past that weight, am I going to then? Yeah.
But you never let yourself do either. You'll never let yourself go.
No, I don't let myself go under either. Yeah. I guess it is always there. But I think I control food as much as anybody does. Like with, I'm on
if you go to the gym, you have to follow a gym plan.
Yes,
that's controlling
absolutely.
your food. Yeah. And, if you snack out, then you're going to be angry at yourself because you haven't lost the weight you want to lose. So we all have to have some form of control. Otherwise, we'd all get really fat. I think that's natural.
Yeah. So I think in that sense, there's a little bit of that, but nothing that, at the moment is a concern.
And then sort of leaning on from that is sort of talking about your obsessive compulsive disorder, where you have to, obviously living together, me and Sophie are very two different people. Sophie has to, because of her obsessive compulsive thoughts, she has to she has to plan everything by the book.
Yep.
Where for me, I
Wing
don't do
everything.
that whatsoever. But like, so there was a situation for New Year's Eve where Sophie had planned a taxi, and she was like, right, everyone
Like 4 weeks in advance.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then
It's
like
New Year's
in
Eve.
her head, Sophie has to repeat things where she's like, right, we're getting here at this time. She has to tell people out loud. So comes to New Year's Eve daytime, she's like, so everyone's getting in a taxi, and I went, oh yeah, but there's someone else coming.
I've added a person.
So I've added a person, but I'm just going to get my own way there. And Sophie was like, well, what do you mean you're going to get your own way there? And in her mind, suddenly, for me, that
The whole
didn't matter
plan had
because
come.
I could either just walk or call you
Yeah.
or just get myself there somehow. But for Sophie, it was like her whole world had just fallen apart at that point.
Yeah, because you'd taken one person out and just added another person.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
It wasn't you.
And that's not what I planned for.
No,
Yeah.
exactly.
That was not, what was in
your
my
idea.
head. Yeah.
But for you, it's for me because I don't think about it.
Yeah.
Like even when it affects other people, and like we say with mental health issues, you obviously should think about the person more. But like, and I do it all the time, and sometimes I think about my actions before I do something. But I was just like, why are you getting so uptight about this for?
Yeah, we had a...
Because it made perfect sense to you, but
Yeah.
not to her. So
Because she was like, because even though I knew I'd be able to get there, for Sophie it was like, well, no, you were coming in this taxi with us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, because it wasn't really about. I did care that you got there. I don't mean
didn't
that.
care, mate.
she didn't.
She didn't care.
I did care that you got there, but it was more about the fact that that was the plan. That was what we were doing,
Don't change it.
and I can't. It's like my brain can't then focus on the fact that actually there's been a change in the plan,
And that's
and
fine.
how do I deal with that sort of thing.
Because your whole life has to have routine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like even sort of going down to the smallest thing about your nails.
Nails
Yeah.
on a
I knew-
Monday and a Thursday.
Monday and Thursday.
Yes, got it right.
Fantastic.
Spend too much time around your house.
But for you always have to sort of have it as a
Like, I think, most people think that doing your nails is a fun thing. And for me, it's not.
No.
It's like, it's a routine. So I have my weekday nails and I have my weekend nails, and they're all in an order, and you can't break the order.
yeah.
And the weekday ones are done on a Monday and the weekend ones are done on a Thursday. And there's no, I would rather, if someone was like, should we go out on a Thursday night?
Yeah.
And my nails went done, I would skip that
Not
night
going
out.
out, yeah.
And do my nails because it's the routine.
Is there anything in so with some people who have obsessive compulsive disorder, if they don't do something in their mind, they're like, well, if I don't do this, then my family's going to die or something horrific's going to happen to me. For you, is it a similar thing where you're like, if I don't do this, something horrific is going to happen?
I guess in a sense, I just
It doesn't
think,
even have to be like your family
Yeah.
dying or anything like that.
I think my thing, so like going back to my nails, if they weren't done, that is all I will think about for the next day and until they are done pretty much.
Yeah.
But even then when they are done, I've skipped that routine.
You've come out of the routine.
Yeah, so it's almost like I can't cope and I get twitchy and I get like, and then that's kind
Irritable.
of when the controls starts to become an issue again. So yeah, it's not necessarily something bad like someone dying or something like
Just
that.
don't want to rock
But
the
in-
boat too
It's-
much.
Yeah, yeah,
But in your mind, it's just going to keep
yeah.
looping and looping
yeah,
and
yeah,
looping.
yeah.
That's so also so after you realised you had a disorder and everything like that, you then wanted to sort of obviously get help for it.
Yeah.
So you used a technique called CBT.
Yeah.
Could you just explain what that is?
So it's cognitive behavioural therapy, and it's about changing the way you think about certain things. So it's about changing your behaviour, changing your thought pattern. So for me, really, my eating disorder, like with lots of other people's, wasn't actually anything to do with the food. Mine was a control thing coming from my OCD. So it was kind of looking at sorting that side of things out first, which I know after discussing the nails and stuff doesn't sound like it's sorted, but from what
It's
I came from,
healthier from than it is.
yeah, I mean, I was I couldn't get on buses because I couldn't talk to the bus
Conductor.
driver, because I'd have to do the routine of what I'd have to say about 50 times. I had to check doors like hundreds of times. So it was kind of getting that sort of thing sorted as well. I think because I have like having to do that routine of like thoughts and stuff as well. One of the things that the therapist got me to do was would it stand up in court? So it's like, oh, I can't get on a bus. Okay, well, why not? What, you're in court. What is your reason for not getting a bus? Well, I might get on and I might say the wrong thing. Okay, well, what's that going to... It's all about like changing that way of things.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I had to do that with... Yeah, so I had a brilliant therapist. And I think without her, I probably wouldn't necessarily be here now, because I think by the time I saw her, I was about 5.5 stone. And even at that point, when I went to see her, I only really went to see her because Mum and Dad were like,
wanted you to,
yeah, we need you to see someone. But even at that point, I was like, I don't have a problem. Don't really understand why I've got to see her. And it was only when I was with her that I was like, I do have a problem. And I can see now that I do need help. And yeah, so I think luckily we were able to go private, because when Mum first took me to the doctor, even at that weight, I wasn't... They didn't say specifically this, but I wasn't ill enough to be put into any sort of clinic. And at 21 years old anyway, you're kind of over 18 and that's pretty much your choice. And at that point I was like, no.
So do you think it's harder once you reach a certain age then to get help?
Yeah, definitely. I think when you're younger, your parents can kind of, or people around you can kind of...
More force.
Yeah, sort of push you into it a little bit more.
But I was an adult and nobody could force me.
Nobody can tell you what to do.
No.
Anyway, so.
No one can tell me what to do. And no one can force me to go into any clinic or get any sort of help.
And I think you believe in what your parents say a lot more when you're under 18.
Yes.
When you become an adult, you're a lot more assured in your own actions. I mean, your parents are always right anyway, as we've learned many times.
100%.
But yeah, when you're younger than 18, I think you take what they say as gospel.
Yeah.
And once you pass that limit, then it becomes a lot harder to solve.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think as well, sort of leading back a little bit with sort of me and Sophie both having mental health issues at similar times, very different. Obviously Sophie's was an eating disorder and obviously mine was a drug addiction. But I think as well, if people have mental health issues at the same time when you're in a family, whatever they may be, it's very hard for your parents to sort of help you both, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. So
and I also think for years there was a conflict between me and Sophie as well.
Yeah.
Not really, but everyone knew I had a problem, but it wasn't the fact. And I think part of Sophie's eating disorder, like I said earlier, was to do with me as well, where
you were taking the limelight.
Stealing it away.
Didn't get enough attention.
Yeah. Give it to me. But it's like I was very aggressive as well, and Sophie couldn't control that aggression that I was giving, not just towards her, but to friends and for anyone who really stepped in my way. And
I think as well, I was the one that was at home having to deal with Mum and Dad and listen to them talking about what they were going to do with you and where was Jake and is he all right, and I couldn't control how they were feeling.
Yeah. And you couldn't control where I was either.
Yeah, and you were never where you were supposed to be.
Ever.
Is
he ever now? No.
No. Nothing's changed.
But I think, and you never had to deal. You just swanned in,
nothing had happened. 7 weeks later.
Yeah,
Hi,
pretty
guys.
much, yeah.
How are you doing?
Bringing home absolute wrong-uns.
Into the shed.
Yeah.
Well, the shed you go.
Well, that was the thing. So, people would just randomly turn up at the house. And I remember once where Sophie was like, well, who are these people? And for me, because I was just so out of my nut, I was like, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter to you.
I remember one of your friends, me and Dad were in the garden and it was the summer. And he didn't even knock on the door or anything. He walked straight through to the back garden, was like, oh, I'm just going down to the shed. we'd never seen him before. And then Mum went up to your room, was like, Jake, there's a friend outside. And you were like, don't really know him that well.
He's actually just giving me drugs. Come on in.
But that was our lives.
And that was it for years, though. But I think part of like I said, sort of part of the thing is that sort of the control was so out of control that I think, I'm not saying obviously that my drug problem was Sophie's, like, I'm the reason,
no.
But
definitely fed into it.
But like with anything,
it's like a catalyst.
Yeah.
And it was sort of similar times where Sophie had already started to get help when I'd suddenly like quit drugs and had my serious mental breakdown. But it was sort of similar times where we were both starting to get better. But it's only been very recently that me and Sophie can really, like, I think with it as well, you have to sort of, especially when you both have mental health issues, you have to sort of play it by ear with each other, and especially if you've struggled with each other in the past. 'Cause me and Sophie hated each other for years.
Yeah.
Sophie hated me because of what I was doing and who I was, and I hate Sophie because she wouldn't let me be who I was, and like it was sort of like she had to control my life essentially. But now I realise obviously it wasn't that at all, and like
She just wanted the best for you.
yeah, and it gets better, and like she just wanted that sort of protection, like to give me protection, but like, I never like took it as a thing. So it's but yeah, on the right path now, aren't we now?
Yeah, we're doing all right.
I'm trying to think if there's any... Oh, dear.
Kicking off.
Kicking off.
What about sort of, so your sort of social effect on it? So like social media. So how do you think when you were sort of, and maybe not even going for it now, but when you look at social media, maybe for younger kids or like younger girls watching it, and boys as well, who think they look at these sort of Instagram models and it's sort of like the perfect body sort of thing.
I think, when I was going through it, social media wasn't like as big as obviously it is now. But even maybe like 18, 19, that sort of age, there was still, I followed a pro-anorexic Instagram account, and where people would share pictures.
Explain. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Because when you said pro-anorexic, I was like, surely that's not what she meant to say.
Yeah, so it's basically like you get Instagram accounts, there are websites where people share pictures of themselves, like how much weight they've lost, like, and then people are liking it and saying, you're doing amazing, try and lose that extra bit of weight. It's really harmful.
I think that goes back into what you said earlier about you thought it was the right thing to do. And, in that moment in time, you thought it was great. And you didn't see anything wrong with it.
No,
so
and I think following accounts like that made that idea even more. So it was kind of like, I'm okay because look at all these other people that are doing it. And but then it was also like spurring you on, like... I'm not as thin as this person, or I don't look as good as this person.
Feeds a habit, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So I think in that sense, they were the sort of things that I was kind of watching and looking at then. But I guess now social media is even bigger, isn't it? And everybody is looking for the unattainable, really, aren't they? And
I think that is the issue with it as well. I think
Instagram's a highlight reel of...
I think it's, from what I see on social media now, like obviously when we were growing up, it was very much sort of the catwalk model where you had to be skinny. But
we didn't really have social media when we were growing up.
No.
So it was just, as you say, it was just models and what you saw in the newspapers or on TV.
Exactly. Where I think it's more to do with now where it's not even about being sort of slim, it's about being that real... like that defined body, like that gym body look, which is impossible because 90% of the photos out there are girls with and boys with, or men and women with good bodies, but then are filtered to perfection. So it's never really the truth. It's always behind
distortion.
Yeah. So it's always sort of a change, but But yeah, no, I never actually realised that you followed a pro anorexic page, and it's just
horrible to say, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just.
But then I think there's things for that out there for nearly everything.
For everything,
because you know,
of course, yeah.
There's probably platforms out there where people have got depression and they're probably comfortable in their depression and things like this. And
well, there's a thing of like even like cyberbullying where people go, well, do you know what? Because the internet is so vast nowadays, and it's just so
it's uncontrollable.
Yeah, and you can just corrupt just so quickly, and obviously, as soon as you attach to something negative, but you see in a positive way, you're sort of trapped really for the sort of whole part of it. But it's mad.
Social media is mad.
Yeah.
I think you've just got to be, the youth growing up have just got to be so careful how much they take in, how much time they spend on it. Don't get me wrong.
And how much they believe it as well, like what they're actually seeing.
Yeah.
Like, okay, all your posts may be amazing, but is that real life, or have you specifically, gone to these places?
Pick that one picture out of 500.
Yeah.
I think, it's just being realistic about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mad.
I think we're pretty much done, aren't we?
Yeah, I think we've...
anything else to say, Sophie? No?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Thank you ever so much for coming on and talking about it. It's
yeah, really good. Thank you.
Very much appreciated.
I've learnt a lot.
I have, especially about. I'm still going to say it again about the pro anorexic side. It's just such a shock. Yeah. But no, thank you ever so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And as normal, if you want to find our social media, if you go on the Facebook, which is Chit Chat Mental Health, you'll find all the links to all of our platforms on there.
Yep.
Obviously, if you can subscribe and like us on YouTube, that'd be great. That's Chit Chat Mental Health as well. Pretty please. And then, next episode 6 is called From Depression to Progression with Josh Tye. And that will be out not next Monday, the Monday after.
I've been Jake Grimmer.
I've been Jonny Carr.
And we are over and
out.